I'm John Lewis, and you're watching The Red Booth Show.
Hi, welcome to The Red Booth Show. On tonight's episode, I have John Lewis. He's an MMA fighter, champion, and also a filmmaker and actor with movies coming out that sound really cool. Plus, we have some clips with the cast of the new movie, Captain America: Civil War, that just came out this weekend. So, come and join us. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Great, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Thanks for coming.
I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting because you have a huge background in sports, in UFC, and then you transitioned into filmmaking, and now that's doing really, really well. So this is a very interesting episode, I think.
I'm looking forward to talking with you about it.
Well, I think people should know something about you that they might not know, which is that you were one of the first main players in helping to get the UFC to where it is.
Yes, that's true.
And I know we have some clips from some very important people to sort of help show how that's true, but I thought it would be cool to hear it from you.
Well, how that really works is when the sport, in 93, the UFC first aired in Denver, Colorado with the UFC 1.
Right.
And at that time it was, it was different styles against different styles. No weight divisions, and all the sanctioning rules weren't in place yet.
Right. That was when they fought in the cage and you could decapitate people. And then they were like, "You're not allowed to do that anymore."
Yeah, pretty much, right.
Right.
They then took it all the fun
I remember that. I was
took
like,
all the fun away.
Yeah.
Right. But what happened is over the years, the companies, or I should say the brand's own marketing tool, which is the bloodiest thing alive, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That was what was helping market it
Massacre
at
in
first.
a
Right.
cage.
Well, eventually that ended up backfiring.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I actually remember this sort of from the public perspective happening.
Yeah, and then certain politicians like Senator McCain, at the time was senator, over in New York, they started using their very own commercials, and slowly but surely was able to start squashing the UFC brand for its visibility through the media. And that was kind of rough because they were using the words that were out of basically our own mouths. They were marketing it to show how violent and how dangerous it was.
Right.
So little by little, it did get to a point where it couldn't be on any stations anymore. No states were sanctioning it, and it was disappearing. There was a huge underground fan base that loved it, but as far as visibility, there's no way to see it. There's no pay-per-view anymore. There was obviously no TV deals at the time. Well, what happened is I was living in Las Vegas at the time. I knew Dana White, and he was a trainer for the Fertittas, and they're obviously in station casinos, and they were in gaming. And he introduced me to them and said they were interested in learning more about jiu-jitsu, which is my specialty. And basically we made friends, and I started training them 2-3 days a week, private lessons, for a few years. At the time...
You were training them?
Yeah, exactly. They're my students, right? So.
Okay, now, by the way, that kind of segues to something very interesting, which is that John has trained some very impressive people in the UFC.
A few people, yeah.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
Like, what were some of the names of some of them?
A few of the more obvious names would be Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz.
Tito Ortiz,
Randy
okay.
Couture, BJ Penn, Rico Rodriguez. I mean, a lot of the biggest name champions were my students, and still close friends and family.
Now, that's amazing.
And I was fighting at the same time, but I was,
right.
Very, very good in jiu-jitsu and known for that, and had a very good gaming strategy. So a lot of those guys came to me, and I was with them through their whole birth of making hardly any money to their titles for a lot of those guys.
Wow.
Randy me towards the end of his career, but me and him are very good friends as well. BJ Penn's great jiu-jitsu player and one of my guys. So yeah, I trained a lot of great guys.
So this all sort of started from when you were training these guys in Vegas, and then continue your story.
Well, yeah, basically I was renowned for being a great trainer for guys like this, which obviously
Jiu-jitsu.
The Fertittas and Dana White and them wanted to learn more because they know I was training these good guys, and they weren't involved in the UFC whatsoever at the time. Actually, Mr. Fertitta, Lorenzo Fertitta, was on the athletic commission as the chairman, and pro box and against MMA coming to Las Vegas, and Frank Fertitta was just handling the casinos, and Dana was training them. He's a trainer and a good trainer, boxing mainly. So long story short is I trained them for a few years, and they really started getting a love for the sport. And then from there, to keep the classes interesting, I'd bring in Tito for a class, and I'd bring in BJ for a class, just to have them meet the guys. And through the years of me training them, they developed a real love for the sport. and then.
Now, would you say for jiu-jitsu, that's the main thing that they're training in, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've trained boxing and other things as well, but especially at that time, if you remember correctly, in the very beginning, it was Hoist Gracie.
I totally remember Hoist
dominating.
Gracie. Okay.
So at that time, that was that's all that mattered.
Just so you know, that's a lot. It says a lot because I really don't know that much about the UFC. I mean, but I know his name, so that's a pretty.
Right. So he was crushing all opponents, all comers at the time. So that's what was interesting, and that's what really made the difference in the very beginning of the sport. Jiu-jitsu is what made the difference. So I trained these guys, and eventually they fell in love with it, and they met the guys from Tap Out for me. I pretty much introduced them to the community,
nice.
The community of MMA.
Sponsors.
They fell in love with it, and then the rest is history. They bought the UFC for $2 million, and today it's worth billions.
What?
Yeah. So that's how I was involved, pretty much helping them fall in love with the sport and helping them be able to make those deals happen, that they were able to purchase the company and make it what it is today.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So if it wasn't for all of this, then we wouldn't necessarily be watching UFC right now, would we?
Well, it's hard to say, but I mean, someone else could have tried to take over, but I mean, they put in $47 million before they made $1 back off of a $2 million investment.
Wow.
Not many people could afford to do that. And even them at that point were like, maybe we shouldn't keep going with this.
Yeah.
And then what happened is there was a historic...
$47 million? Yeah, that's like a lot.
And they put a lot of money into rebranding it, making it sexier to the public, and trying to put sanctioning rules together that made a difference for the sport and made it safer and show that it was a real sport.
Yeah. Now on that note, actually, we have to take a quick break, but we will be right back with John Lewis.
I really wanted to put a deck on my house.
The floor was creaking and there were cracks in the wall.
I had them put in walls in my basement.
Well, the whole thing was done on time, on budget, and not a day of work was missed.
Alpha Structural is a top-rate company. I'd recommend them to anybody.
If you live in a hillside home and gravity is pulling you towards the edge of the cliff, I recommend you call Alpha.
It was a real pleasure to work with Alpha.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it,
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got, or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Okay, and welcome back to the Red Booth Show. We're here with John Lewis. How's it going?
Going great.
Good. So we were just talking about the amazing contribution that you made to help bring UFC kind of back to life here in the United States.
Thanks. Yeah. Like I say, so it was pretty neat. And then taking off where we left off, they put a lot of money into the show. A lot of people couldn't afford to do that, so you can't say that it never would have happened. But
now, who was this that put the money into it?
Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta.
Okay.
Yeah, the owners of Station Casinos and many other things, but they're very big players in Las Vegas,
Wow.
And they got to a point where they're just about to let it go because the investment was just too much.
Yeah.
And a very historical match between Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin happened on a free show they had of the UFC. The first Ultimate Fighter TV series, that weekly series, and it was such a great fight that a lot of people who don't really know the sport were able to watch that, and it just really had such amazing ratings. It just started an upswing, and they just saw the upswing start, and they just hung in a little longer, and from then on, it never went down, and now here we are today.
Amazing.
It was pretty cool. It's a pretty cool story. They put a lot into it and a lot of money to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean that's a huge thing to do, and obviously it's paying off big
Now
time.
it's paying off. So
Billions.
They made a good call.
Nice job,
They
guys.
usually do. They're pretty smart guys.
And which casino was this fight in? It was in one of the casinos, right?
Those are usually in either the MGM or the Mandalay Bay.
Right.
But they own Station Casinos and other casinos. They own, I don't know how now, but at the time maybe 7 or 8 casinos alone, and even more now. But I think probably their biggest brand is the UFC at this point.
Amazing. Wow. Well, that's huge. It's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
And then you trained all of these amazing fighters. And then you also were one of the champions yourself.
Yeah, not UFC, but as a mixed martial arts champion. I fought in a lot of different sports.
So they'll say MMA. What would be the
yeah,
proper
MMA
title?
and mixed martial arts. And think of it like mixed martial arts is like saying boxing.
Right.
And then there's WBA. There's there's
Right.
brands.
There's all these
So
different.
UFC is a brand. Bellator's a brand. There's a lot of different brand. Bellator's on Spike. A lot of different brands, but the sport is called mixed martial arts. or
MMA.
MMA.
Right. Cool. So you do jiu-jitsu. What other martial arts do you do?
Well, I have a 5th degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is I was the 4th American to get a black belt. I have a 2nd degree black belt in the art called Shokundo, which is like a Thai boxing style, Japanese kickboxing, but it's very similar to Thai boxing. Judo black belt under the legendary Gene LaBelle, who's a very, very famous American grappler.
The most I have any experience with that is when I used to play like Double Dragon, and like I could totally kick really high with Chun-Li.
There you go.
So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. A couple other arts. I mean, also jiu-jitsu, the regular jiu-jitsu which is like a self-defense style of jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, and I think that's
So
mainly
that's the
it.
difference. Did you train with the Gracies or how?
Actually, I started with Hicks and Gracie in the very beginning, but I went on to really learn the most of my technique and my growth from Andre Pederneiras and the group Nobonyao, which is it's like the Gracies or the Machados. It's a team called Nobonyao, which is a very world-renowned team, and he's an amazing instructor, and he's in Brazil. So that's where I got my belts from and trained most of my years.
Wow, so
Yeah,
cool.
It's really fun. Yeah.
So you were doing MMA fighting for about, I think, 11 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said 11 years.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a long time.
Competing. Yeah.
Competing.
Yeah, professionally. Yeah.
Right. But you still train?
Yeah, I still teach now, and I've been
Yeah.
training since I was a little kid. And, so long time now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I still teach even today. I still teach privates and to a few select people, and I have a little small group of people that I teach and pass my craft on to as well when I can. It keeps me in shape, and I have a good time doing it. It's part of who I am. And
Yeah,
part of
totally.
where I
You've
am,
been doing it
where I'm
forever.
today from. So try to keep
I would love to
contact.
hear what made you start doing this in the first place.
Yeah, it's a whole another.
I know, I could do like
show.
another episode right now,
It's,
couldn't
you know,
I?
It's the
Okay.
good stories, you know.
I
when you're young,
know.
being picked on, and it's all that stuff.
You were getting picked on.
I wasn't getting beat up, but I was getting picked on. But I could always fight, even at a young age. But I grew up in Hawaii. I was born and raised in Hawaii, and Hawaii.
But they're so peaceful in Hawaii.
Oh no, actually, in the
No?
contrary. Yeah, Hawaii is known for fighting, just like street fighting. It's very popular in Hawaii. It's just the way it is when you grow up there. So me being from outside of, I mean, I was born there, but I wasn't local. When I say local, I mean, of blood.
Right.
You'd still be picked on or called Hali or whatever, and I would.
Hali, is that for like people
Hali is
not
like-
from the mainland?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So I would, and I get some fights with some prominent fighters, and I started. I would win, and I started getting very popular very quickly at a young age, just street fighting, and I started getting hip to the fact that like if you're really good at something, then people like
People
you.
notice,
People
yeah.
like you. I was a kid. I was like 12 years old, so.
Yeah.
So at that age, that's kind of a good thing. I was like,
Yeah.
man, I had my way in. So I continued on that word. I was never the bully or anything. I would actually, on the contrary, always be the good guy that was defending people.
Right.
But I would be quick to defend someone just so I could, Yeah. And I built a reputation as a fighter. And then eventually I got really excited with learning more about the art itself of fighting, since I was, not just street fighting. And I started training, and then it just became a love of mine.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, I would love to keep talking to you
Yeah.
about this, but I have to also talk to you about your movies.
Yes.
Now, this is a crazy story. So he just recently wrapped a film called Justice.
Yes.
And didn't you write this?
Yeah, I wrote it with another gentleman named Sean Justice, but I'm the lead writer on it. I also
Produced it,
with,
right?
Yeah, with AJ Perez and Chasing Butterflies Pictures.
And you wouldn't even believe this. I've seen some of it. I'm not supposed. We can't show it yet, but it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
So you play the bad guy, right?
Yeah, I play the lead antagonist,
Okay.
Reb, and opposite Nathan Parsons, who's the good guy James, a U.S. Marshal. And I mean, I as an actor, I never played as a bad guy because you never think that you are a bad guy. If you know anything about acting, a good coach always tells you never play the bad guy.
You everything you're doing makes sense to you.
From your perspective. So I played it, and it made it really an interesting character to play. And but he's definitely does some bad things for his own reasons.
Okay, well, on that note, we will be right back. We have to take a quick break.
Cool.
I really wanted to put a deck on my house.
The floor was creaking, and there were cracks in the wall.
I had them put in walls in my basement.
Well, the whole thing was done on time, on budget, and not a day of work was missed.
Alpha Structural is a top-rate company. I'd recommend them to anybody.
If you live in a hillside home and gravity is pulling you towards the edge of the cliff, I recommend you call Alpha.
It was a real pleasure to work with Alpha.
And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. We're here with John Lewis. How's it going, John?
Great.
Cool. So he was just talking about how you were playing the bad guy.
Yeah.
But not really. In your heart, you weren't a bad guy.
Right. Yeah. Just basically the concept is, everybody has justification for what they do. So
of course.
To an outside perspective, you may be the bad guy, but from my perspective as the character, the guy came into my town.
You're doing what you're supposed to do.
I was good before he got there. He started messing up my world, which was going just great.
Yeah.
And I had to retaliate. But I had some other great players and great cast in this film.
Oh, cool. Can you tell us a bit about him?
Yeah, Stephen Lang, who's a wonderful career actor. You would have seen him in Avatar. He had the scars on his face in Avatar.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's from Tombstone in the old days. He works all the time.
I love Tombstone.
He's a wonderful
also, and Avatar.
Wonderful actor. Yeah. He was actually the mayor, who's actually my boss because he pays me in the film, and so he would be one of the antagonists as well. And then we had Nathan Parsons playing the lead. We had Jamie Lynn Sigler from Sopranos.
Cool.
She was one of the leads as well. Also, Ellen Hallman from Spartacus. Also, she's on Into the Badlands now. Robert Carradine, remember him from back in the days? He's done a lot of work besides this, but everybody knows him from Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
But he's great. We had Quentin Aaron, who is the big black guy on The Blind Side. Remember him with Sandra Bullock?
Okay, yeah, totally.
He's such a great actor. He was in
this.
He
That's amazing.
did a wonderful job.
He did a really good job in that movie.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's so many more people. There's Leslie Ann Down. I don't want to forget anybody, but it was a great cast.
Yeah. Well, they'll have to go and check it out.
Yeah. Great performances, and the story is really, really fun. It's definitely like Tombstone in the way of like an action-packed Western. Great story, but
gritty Western.
Gunfights, and horse chases.
And it looks great. I love the way they shot it. It looks really well made.
Yeah.
Especially, it's I think you said it was $3 million budget or something like that, right?
It's around there, yeah. By the time it's finished, and Richard Gobai, great director, and Scott Peck, the DP. Man, they brought a look to this thing.
They did. It looks
really
great.
Yeah, it looks really beautiful.
So we're waiting for distribution right now.
Yeah,
but
we have many things on the table. Now we're just trying to find the right one.
So we'll figure
it out.
For
theatrical release, yeah.
People need to stay tuned to find out about when Justice comes
Look
out.
for that.
And then also, you've already got the next movie lined up, and this one is something around $15 million budget. So that's a great step up.
Yeah, it's The Tower, and this is really my passion project. I call it my Rocky because it's the one I've been working on for a couple years now. It's a really great action sci-fi piece, and the script's really good, and everybody loves it. So it's the one I've been wanting to do
sci-fi.
for a while.
I love sci-fi.
Yeah, it's still set in current times, but it still has some creature-esque pieces to it. But it's by no means is it a horror film. It's really a government experiment type film.
That's really
but with
cool.
Great fighting, great action, great martial arts.
Are you in the movie
yeah,
also?
I'm playing the lead in that one.
You're playing the lead.
I'm playing the good guy.
The actual good
the
guy
actual
this
good
time.
guy, right.
And you probably have to kick people's butts too,
all
right?
the time, yeah.
Can you do
from the
like one of
beginning to
those
the
like
end.
roundhouse kicks? I just have to
For
know.
sure, yeah.
Of course you can.
Yeah, from beginning to the end, that movie, once the action begins, it just doesn't stop until the last beat of the movie. It's going to be a great film.
So what stage are you at? Have you finished pre-production? Do you have storyboards? Like where is it
A lot
right
of
now?
the team's put together as far as production goes, above and below the line, and then it still is in the funding stages, but we're in contracts with a few different groups right now
Right.
to see what who ends up being the funder.
And just so you guys know, when he's talking about above the line, that's all of the talent, and then the below the line is all of the very talented crew. So there you go. And that's very exciting. You guys, I know, have some really good things happening with that, and we're going to be able to see that, I guess, next year, probably.
Yeah, definitely. You can even show if you'd like a clip I'll get for you.
Okay, good. So check out the clip, guys.
What is this place?
I have a bad feeling about this.
Watch yourselves.
Oh, shit.
Whoever did this, they're still here. I don't know what Sherpa's got planned, but it's not good.
And we have a really cute guest here today with us. We have John's son, who's also in the movie. This is for The Tower, right?
No, this is actually for Justice.
He's
in
Justice.
The Tower as well.
Okay,
but
so I knew he was in The Tower. I knew you
Yes.
said he's going to be in The Tower, but he
Correct.
was in Justice.
Yeah.
So we get to meet his son.
Yeah, he's in
So
there.
come on over, quick. Come on over here. And hi, why don't you say hello?
Hi,
And what's your name?
Elias.
Elias. And did you have fun working with your dad?
It's very fun.
That's cool. What did you think about being in a Western movie?
It's pretty good.
Yeah? Did they make you wear cowboy hats?
Well, not really cowboy hat, but like, I don't know how to explain it. It's more of like,
It's a smaller hat, a little brim.
A little one.
It's really cute.
Very cute.
Little front rolled up on the front of it.
Nice. But you got to wear costumes, and everybody else wearing costumes. And horses. There's probably horses. So what was your favorite part of doing the movie?
well, it was actually at the end when I was in a burnt church,
Whoa.
and it was actually really burnt,
It was really burnt.
and I was all inside of the church, and then I was in the church, and then I heard a horse, and then I came out.
Don't too much.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like a pretty intense scene right there, doesn't
yeah,
it?
an important part.
We can't tell the rest of it. Okay, Dad
But he did
cuts
great.
it off.
Sorry, but yeah.
That sounds
great.
amazing. Very cool.
Yeah, he did a great job, though. He has a really great role in it. It's a pivotal role. He's in the beginning, middle, and end. The last thing you see on film. So.
Well, congratulations for your first big movie role.
Thanks.
Yes, I'm sure there'll be many more. And also congratulations to you for finishing the film and to be moving on to the next one. It sounds like you have a lot of fun adventures in the future with your filmmaking.
Yeah, that's what it's about right now for me. Is producing and acting is my
And
love right now.
writing.
Yeah, and writing. Yeah.
It's cool.
All of it.
Can't wait. Well, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's been great. And I'm going to definitely keep everybody posted. They can go and find you on your social media. Why don't you tell them where they can find you?
Yeah. On Twitter, it's at John Lewis MMA, and on Facebook, I think you'd use the / John Lewis actor, and you'd find my my fan page there, and the rest will lead you to the others. So, and then the actually company website is jlecinemagroup.com if you want to know more about the films we're producing and what's coming up.
And then there was also, we want to give a shout out to Darkwater Pictures.
Yeah, Darkwater. Thank you, Darkwater.
Yeah.
And Sherry.
It's very, very cool. Thanks so much. And so thanks again for watching John Lewis on the Red Booth.
Thanks for having me.
Captain, people are afraid.
That's why I'm here. We need to be put in check. Whatever form that takes, I'm game.
I'm sorry, Tony. If I see a situation pointed south, I can't ignore it. Sometimes I wish I could.
Sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth.
You know, the response to Civil War has been so positive. We're really, it makes us all the more excited to see it again.
I mean, just look at a night like this. I mean, you see how many people come out and how enthusiastic they are.
Oh, there's just a lot of energy, you know, you're kind of taking it all in, and it's, you know, this is what we do it for.
It's cool to be a part of a franchise that's really good. It's a little bit like, you know, you play a sport and then you get traded or drafted by like Super Bowl champions.
The safest hands are still our own.
Look, it has heart. You care about everybody. You're definitely conflicted at the end of the film as to who you should be rooting for, and it has some of the best action sequences you've ever seen in a superhero movie.
It's not often, if ever, you go into a movie knowing that the final product is going to be really good.
It really is about the ideologies between our two biggest characters who we've seen together in multiple films, who we met in their own films, and in this film it all comes to a head.
This family that we call the Avengers, they get into a fight with each other. There's a really critical issue that attacks the identity of the Avengers in the film. The most important thing to us as filmmakers was to make sure that when you got to the end of the film, that you could walk out of the theater and argue with your family and your friends about who was right and who was wrong.
That conflict is what brings the movie to a higher level. The more uncertainty you have with whose side you choose is what makes the film rich.
I think the way these characters are written, much credit to Stan Lee, you know, he made them personable. He made them human.
No, the work that Marvel is doing, the movies they are producing are so wonderful. They're good for youngsters, they're good for oldsters, men, women, everybody loves them.